Okay, this one is going to be about the time that I felt like I took ayahuasca. At least, what I'll say is from what I know about people that have taken ayahuasca. So let's rewind a couple of years in the late summer. And this was one night that I was going through a bunch of old photos. Some were photos that I had photoshopped and gotten a little creative with. Some were photos that were just of things that I was doing around that time. You know, just looking back in time. And, I was going through a lot of memories and things that had happened in the past and started going through um, actually started going through my old music folder. Now, this was initially the music folder that I started when I was late, yeah, a late teenager. When the whole MP3 thing started, it was that music collection leading up through when I was probably close to 30. So it was pretty diverse and very, very large. It's a big folder that has a ton of different stuff in it. And I started playing guitar a long time ago when I was like 18, but I put it down for a long time. And then started picking it back up within the last few years. And this summer night, I remember just spending a few hours going through these old memories. And something happens in your brain when you do that. It's a very relaxing thing to do, but it's also very energizing in some way. It sparks something in your brain that is, I don't know, it's like turning on a light that you haven't turned on in a very long time. But it was really just a few hour long walk down memory lane. But once I got to the music folder, and I'm going through, I was like, hey, let me get the guitar and play with some of these old songs that I used to play way back then, and even songs that I never played on the guitar. And it was so interesting and engaging, and like I said, it had a spark. That moment had a spark to it that I really don't know how to describe, but it was a really fulfilling sort of meditation for a few hours. I just went down the list and played through a bunch of my playlist songs. Some I couldn't really remember so well. Some I never played and tried to sort of figure out how to play them. Songs that had interesting beats or rhythm, and that lasted until I was done, until I was satisfied and tired of doing that for the night. And and then I kind of just stopped and I was done with it for the day. Now, here's the interesting part. The next day, I felt different. I felt relaxed in a way that I had not the previous days before this, but in a new way, in a way that felt new and different, and I didn't really understand it. And this lasted for about a week. And just so happens, during this week, I was listening to a podcast with, I believe, Tim Ferriss, and he was talking about going through ayahuasca and the effects afterwards that you experience. And I realized a lot of that is how I felt for about a week. Now let me explain how, or at least I'll try to explain how. Okay, so I felt an undescribable level of letting things go that I had been frustrated with in the past. Here's an example. I have a brother that I disagree with on a lot of things, and there is usually at family gatherings some point of frustration that I just hold in, and I just don't bring it up because it's just not worth talking about. Well, we had a gathering like a few days after the guitar night, and it was exactly what they had talked about. I really did not care about those things that frustrated me before, and it was like everything was cool, and it's all good. And I really didn't quite understand why I felt that way. But that's just the way I felt that day, so that's how it was. Now keep in mind, I did not take anything. I did not take any chemicals or medications or anything at all. That was just an emotion that came from within myself. Now here's another part of how I felt after the guitar night. I'm going to try to explain this exactly how I felt it, and I hope it makes sense. I felt emotionally how a green lifesaver tastes. And I know that probably doesn't make any sense at all, but that's literally what I felt like. I literally felt like all day, it was like for at least a week straight, I felt like as if I just ate a green lifesaver. And I don't even know what that means really, but it was really apparent. It really stood out, and it was really obvious that like there was some little spark in my brain that was turned on by this moment that ignited something that I can only assume to be some form or something near synesthesia. But I would love to talk to someone who actually knows more about that. I don't really understand it, but it was an interesting moment that faded after that. Now, It's been a while since this has happened. A lot of time has passed. And I don't really know what to think about all this. But I can tell you that if people get out of ayahuasca what I've felt, and probably more, they probably have a larger effect than what I've had. It's it has to be the most relaxing, you know, open arms to the world kind of feeling that you could imagine. I don't plan on ever actually doing the whole ayahuasca thing, but I would love to dance down that line again with music to see if I can replicate it, and then maybe I can understand it a little more, hopefully. But if you actually know anything about this, I would love to just chat a little bit and figure out kind of what's going on and why you feel certain things, what triggers that, and if it's a good thing or a bad thing, or I don't know. I really haven't really talked about it very much because I don't know anyone that knows anything about this. But that's about it. That was the two main things that I remember, was feeling that just a wash of feeling like everything's cool. No, nobody's getting me upset or frustrated today. And being completely without ego. I guess that's how I would describe it. And then the other of having a sort of a perception spark or twist where the world senses were slightly twisted, and in an interesting way. In no way did I feel dizzy or trippy or sick or any of that like what you hear with ayahuasca. But I find it very interesting that I generated that feeling from the chemicals inside me instead of taking in chemicals. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about it some more. Try to understand what this means. But in the meantime, that's all I've got for now. Please reach out if you have any input, or if you try something similar and have a similar experience.